What do all these Minecraft bases have in common? Right. They're tiny. My dream has always been to have one of those really big ones, a megabase. But not just any megabase, the biggest of them all. So I started putting together a team of 20 Minecraft players. The goal was to create the largest projects ever done in Minecraft. So it's been going pretty well. Episode 1, the biggest netherite beacon in all of Minecraft. Episode 2, a gigantic 100 million block hole. Episode 3, every Minecraft biome surrounding the massive hole. But this isn't just a small side project like the netherite beacon. It's something much bigger. This hole is the location for our base, the biggest megabase in all of Minecraft. At the center of our hole is an end portal. It's the focal point of everything, and that's where we'll build the massive structure. The construction of this building requires hundreds of hours of work, several million blocks, and the creation of numerous farms. To keep everything organized, we're dividing it all into 3 phases. Phase 1, collect the 3 primary blocks. We need them in the millions. Phase 2, build the base, still very rough but extremely large. And Phase 3, add the details, gather additional blocks, and complete everything. Videos like this one are incredibly time-consuming and mean that we spend months on a project, so please consider leaving a like. It only takes you 2 seconds, but it helps us tremendously. The estimated material costs, and therefore the blocks that will primarily make up our base, are 4 million blackstone, 2 million smooth quartz, and around 1 million redstone blocks. A massive building with dark walls, sharp white edges, and plenty of red accents. We'll focus on gathering these 3 main blocks in Phase 1 so that we can jump straight into construction in Phase 2. And you don't gather millions of blocks overnight. So let's start with quartz right away. And there are different ways to get our quartz. We could mine quartz ore in the nether, but let's be honest, that's not very realistic since it would probably take years and we'd have to keep flying further into the nether to find more ores. Another option, which seems much more attractive, would be to trade quartz with villagers. A stonemason can trade quartz blocks at his final level. We need 2 million quartz blocks, so if we assume we trade for 1 quartz block per second, it would take us over 500 hours just to get the quartz blocks. And no, we're definitely not going to do that. But luckily there's a third method to get quartz, and this one is quite interesting. Piglins also trade quartz, so you could trap hundreds of them, continuously drop gold, and with a 4.3% chance, they will drop nether quartz and blackstone. So all we need to have to get all the quartz and blackstone for the base is gold, an automatic system that lets piglins trade continuously and fills thousands of shulker boxes and of course, hundreds of piglins. But before we break our heads figuring out how to gather hundreds of piglins or deal with the gold, let's first farm a whole lot of redstone stuff that we'll need for the farm, where the piglins will later be fully automated to trade for us. I have no idea how well this will work, but according to Mr. Tabao, the player who suggested the farm, we should get over 17,000 quartz blocks and 200,000 blackstone blocks in just 1 hour. And from that, we can easily get our 6.5 stacks of powered rails. Now we should have enough, actually. Oh yes, we have more than enough. Very, very good. Next, we need 4.5 stacks of polished blackstone bricks, and for that, we can just go to the nether and farm some blackstone in a bastion. We're done already. It didn't even take 5 minutes. We just got smooth stone slabs. I just grabbed the shulkers as well, so we're only missing one last item, and that's a string. After just a few hours, we had gathered all the materials we need for the machine. And even though this sounds pretty simple in theory, it's actually a much larger and more complex construction than you might think. Luckily, we have Mr. Tevu, who's really good with redstone. And while he and Lucas start building the machine, we need to take care of the most important thing, the piglins. Over 400 piglins. And with this small setup on the nether roof, it shouldn't take too long, because hoglins and piglins keep spawning here since we're in a crimson forest. The hoglins run into the wither roses, while the piglins run into the small hole on the edge. With a dispenser above, we place a pumpkin on the piglins to prevent them from despawning. And with this setup, it was just a matter of waiting a few hours until we had enough piglins. Man, that's crazy. A few days later, the bartering farm is complete. All the piglins have been gathered. Here you can see them stacked together. That's 320 piglins in one spot, and they'll trade us the millions of blocks we need. And here by the piglins, we also have a portal, because that's not all of our farm. These are just the piglins still trading the gold. And here we are inside the bartering farm. As you can see, the whole thing is a proper construction with a ton of redstone. I have no idea what all of this is or how it works. And here you can see all the items listed that are being traded. We can lower this, and all the barrels automatically fill shulkers, which are completely full with the respective items. Everything is sorted here. To power this farm, we now need an incredible amount of gold. But luckily, that's no problem since we built a gold farm for the world record netherite beacon. So now it's in here, and we can load a lot into it. As you can see, it's being directly put into shulkers and fed into the machine. The shulker is then placed, the machine takes out the gold, and everything is done automatically. This here is the start button. When I click on this note block, the machine will start. Yeah, something's definitely happening here. Oh, here it comes. There's the gold. And you can see all the gold is now being thrown into the portal, and now it's going to get really crazy. Watch closely. And here come all the items. And you can also see there's a portal without a floor. So the items that the piglins throw back on the other side don't fall into this water stream, but instead drop straight down. Oh, the very first shulker. It seems like the piglins have dropped a lot of arrows, and we've already got the first shulker automatically filled. We've filled a few double chests with shulkers, all full of gold bars. Now we're turning on the farm, and the piglins can start trading. They've got a long night ahead of them. We already have a shulker full of quartz and the first shulker of blackstone, and I think by tomorrow we'll definitely have more. It's now almost 20 hours later, and I have two pieces of news, one good and one bad. Let's start with the good news. The bartering farm is working really well. We've already gotten a lot of nether quartz and a lot of blackstone, but the bad news is that the farm has only been working this well for about 1 or 2 hours. And as you saw, yesterday we threw all the gold we had into this, our entire gold supply, which was 400 shulker boxes full of gold bars, everything we had from our gold farm that we had built earlier. It's all gone. But not only are our 650,000 gold bars gone, the majority of that gold never even reached the piglins due to a small error in the farm. And even though Mr. Tabao already found and fixed the issue, we were forced to wait another night until we had enough gold again. And while we wait for the gold farm to produce enough gold so we can turn this thing back on, we can go ahead and focus on the third block we need for our base. And it couldn't be any easier, because redstone is dropped by witches, and since witches appear in raids, it makes it incredibly easy to collect large amounts, especially if you have a raid farm that produces nearly 1 million items per hour. And well, we have one of those raid farms on our SMP. Oh, there it is, the ultra crazy raid farm. Here, we can definitely get our redstone because this farm produces 10 double chests of redstone blocks in a single hour. And as a bonus, it's pretty great because we can also generate some emeralds here, since this farm can make 500,000 emeralds in just 1 hour. Whoa, look at that. Okay, it's starting. Check this out. This is a raid wave, probably every time. They land on dripstones and get pushed into the lava and destroyed. Bro, this is really insane, and you can see the speed at which it happens. We're talking about 1 million items in just 1 hour, and you can see what's happening. All the raid items are flowing through continuously, and I'm currently getting 12 FPS. So yeah, redstone is the smaller problem. You have to imagine that what's dying behind me every second is a wave in a raid. So if you've ever died in a raid, this is definitely the ultimate revenge. Oh, there's our gold farm. Yeah, we built this earlier. We needed it for the netherite beacon, for the biggest netherite beacon. We don't have many farms, just a few. And here we are in the overworld with 3 FPS. But the gold farm is also activated. It's just as crazy as the raid farm, not quite as intense, but it's definitely enough. And now with the raid farm providing our redstone blocks and the gold farm running, we had to wait a few hours, especially for new gold, so we could feed the piglins. We hope this time for a successful run and to get our first significant blocks for building. These chests here are filled with blackstone. The farm worked. Not quite perfectly yet, but definitely better than the first run. We have 5 double chests full of shulker boxes filled with blackstone behind me, totaling 566,000 blackstone blocks. Just to put it in perspective, that's 566,000 blackstone blocks, which is nearly 135 double chests full of blackstone. That's about 11% of the blackstone we actually need. But what didn't work out so well are these 2 sad chests here. You can probably guess. These are filled with quartz, also stored in shulker boxes. However, we have significantly less quartz compared to blackstone. It's important to note that with blackstone, we get the blocks directly, but with quartz, we still need to craft it into blocks. This means that what we have here is only a quarter of what's in the blackstone chests in terms of blocks. Unfortunately, that's only 2% 90% of the quartz we need. This means we definitely need to keep the gold farm running day and night from now on. And with these relatively good news, Phase 1 finally comes to an end. Although we're still far from having all the materials, and we might have to come up with something else later for the quartz, with the blocks we can now automatically gather each day, we can at least start building. But before we do that, we need to craft all the nether quartz from the piglins into blocks. He can do it a bit faster than I can, thanks to a mod. Okay, everything is crafted. Almost 24 shulkers full of quartz blocks, and we'll take them to the hole. So here's the center, right under the portal, and Phase 2, the construction of the massive walls and the rough shape of the base, will also be divided into 4 steps. You might have wondered how we're going to build a base in this huge empty hole that actually looks good in the end. In Step 1, it's about laying a foundation, and we start with a layout that shows where each room and wall will be. In Step 2, we'll raise this layout and build a proper framework from a 2-dimensional pattern. Step 3 begins once we finish the framework, and with the help of all the quartz lines, we now know exactly where the blackstone for the walls needs to go. Step 4, the final part of Phase 2, involves covering all the quartz blocks from the framework that are still visible at the edges with some smooth quartz blocks. To simplify things, we'll build the entire framework out of regular quartz blocks since we want to save the hassle of smelting in the furnace for now. Man, this is crazy. The layout is basically done. I think it's really cool, and the size is just right. We definitely have something to work with. And in case you're wondering why we left so much space between the base and the walls of the hole, that was intentional. At some point, we planned to build a massive city of many small houses around the base. And I can tell you, even if it doesn't seem like it right now, this layout is an absolute monster. And the actual size will only become apparent at the end, especially when you're standing right in front of it. Next, we started raising the layout a few blocks higher everywhere so that the base doesn't sit directly on the bedrock, leaving some space underneath, which you'll understand later. So everything you see in the center here that we've raised is just for the end portal. We're now at level 80, and we can already start connecting all these points, which will